My husband announced his new life at his mother's birthday dinner, in front of the whole family, while I was still wearing the apron from the cake I'd baked that afternoon. A fresh start, he called it, a new chapter. In his version of the future, I was the boring part he had finally outgrown. I didn't cry, I didn't make a scene, I just set the cake knife down very gently and folded my hands in my lap. Because I already knew, I'd known for 3 weeks. And what he didn't know was simple. The life he was so proud to walk away from had never once been running on him. The house, the money, the business, our children's entire world. 1,000 quiet things he never noticed until the day they stopped catching him. He thought he was walking out on his wife. He was walking out on the only person who knew how his whole life stayed standing. 17 years ago, Mark proposed to me in the parking lot of a diner because he couldn't wait the 20 extra minutes to the restaurant he'd booked. He was shaking. I said yes before he finished the sentence. I keep going back to that parking lot in my head, trying to find the exact moment the man who couldn't wait 20 minutes for me became the man who couldn't wait to leave. We built a whole life after that lot. 2 kids, a small business, a house with a crooked step he kept promising to fix. And for 11 of those years, I was the one who handled the things nobody claps for. The mortgage, the insurance, his mother's birthday gift every single year, signed love from both of us in my handwriting. The dentist appointments he never knew the kids had. The grocery list that lived in my head. I was the calendar, the memory, the quiet machinery of a life he thought ran itself. And he wasn't a monster. I need to be fair about that. He remembered every waiter's name. He clapped the loudest at our daughter's school play. The cruelest part, later, was that I could still remember the man from that parking lot. He just slowly decided that the life I was holding together was a cage instead of a home. It started the way these things always do, quietly. Late meetings that didn't used to run late, a new gym, a new haircut, a sudden urgent interest in becoming a better version of himself. His phone, which had lived face up on every table for a decade, started living face down. I noticed the way you notice a draft in a house. Not enough to say anything, just enough to keep your coat on. And then one night, while he was in the shower, his phone lit up on the kitchen counter. The counter I had wiped 10,000 times. I wasn't snooping. I just looked. One line. A name at the top I didn't know. It said, "Good night, sweetheart." Sweetheart, that was his word for me. From the diner parking lot, from our wedding, from the hospital both times when our kids were born. He had handed my word to a stranger like it had never meant anything at all. I stood there with the dishcloth still in my hand, and I felt the floor of 17 years tilt under me. Here is what I did not do. I did not confront him. I did not throw the phone. I did not give him the scene he could describe to her later, the crazy wife, the screaming, the story where he gets to be the calm one. I finished the counter. I checked that our daughter had done her reading. I said goodnight to him, like my chest wasn't full of broken glass. And then I went into the bathroom, turned the water on so the kids wouldn't hear, and let myself come apart on the floor, one hand pressed over my own mouth for exactly 10 minutes. Then I washed my face, and I never gave him those 10 minutes again. The next morning, after he left, I did the one thing nobody ever expects from the quiet one. I went to see a lawyer, not to fight, just to understand exactly where I stood, to understand that you have to know how we started. When we bought the house 11 years ago, Mark's credit was a wreck left over from his 20s. So the mortgage went in my name, the deed, the title, all of it. Just for now, he said. We'll fix it later. Later never came. Later rarely does. At the time, it felt like I was carrying his weight, doing him a quiet favour he'd never have to think about again. Neither of us understood, that afternoon, what we had actually just signed. He chose his mother's birthday to be honest with everyone. He stood up, Mark always stood up, and gave a warm little speech about growth and honesty and how sometimes people simply outgrow the life they built. He didn't say her name. He didn't have to. His mother already knew. I saw it in the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. His sister reached across the table and patted my hand. You'll be okay, sweetheart. You're so capable. Capable. The word people reach for when they can't find a kinder one. Around that table, everyone had already chosen a side, and it wasn't mine. And then I felt it. My daughter, beside me, looking from his face to mine, trying to work out whether this was something adults could still fix. That almost broke me more than he did. My throat closed. For 1 second, the whole room blurred, and I was back on that bathroom floor, and then it passed. I picked up my water, took a slow sip, and said, I think that's a wonderful idea. Everyone should live somewhere that makes them happy. Mark smiled, relieved. He thought I was being gracious. I was being precise. The fresh start hit reality within a month. First, the bank said no. Then the business account would not move $1 until I approved the transfer. Then a supplier called me, not him, because his name had never been the one that fixed problems. Then his biggest client asked quietly whether I would still be the one handling the account. That was the part he hadn't planned for. The paperwork mattered, but the paperwork was only the visible part. Underneath it was everything he had mistaken for background noise. The passwords, the invoices, the school calendar, the renewal dates, the client who trusted me more than the name on the door. The small emergencies I'd quietly solved before they ever reached him. He hadn't just forgotten whose name was on the house. He'd forgotten whose hands were under the whole life he was standing on. He came home pale one evening, holding a folder. And for the first time in 11 years, he wanted to talk about the boring paperwork. Suddenly, I was not the boring part of his life anymore. Suddenly, Mark remembered my birthday, our anniversary. He remembered, out loud, that I had always been the smart one, the strong one. Come on, sweetheart, he said. Soft now. The charm turned all the way back up. And there it was again. My word. The one from the diner parking lot, the hospital rooms, the birthday cards, the word he had already given away like a spare key. I looked at him for a long second and I said, Don't call me that. For the first time that night, the charm slipped. Let's keep this simple, he said. Sign a few things. We both move on. No lawyers, no mess. We were a team once, weren't we? A team. He remembered we were a team the exact moment he needed me to hand him the win. Just sign at the markers, he said, and slid the papers across the same table where I'd paid our bills for 11 years. I didn't pick up the pen. I asked him one question. When you stood up at that dinner and told everyone you'd outgrown me, did you ever once check whose name the whole life was in? He didn't answer. He just looked at me the way you look at a stair that isn't there, that half second when the floor you trusted simply isn't where you put your foot. I let the silence sit, the same silence he'd expected me to fill with begging. I just handed it back to him, quietly, with interest. In the end I did sign, but on my terms, and there was nothing left for him to argue with. I didn't take everything to punish him. That was never the point. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life carrying a grudge like a second job. Our kids deserved a mother, not a war. I kept the house because it was mine, and because that crooked step was the only steady ground our kids had ever known. I kept the savings I'd built. I kept the business that had always really been mine. And I let him do the one thing he had never done in his life, start over with only what he'd actually brought himself. I didn't win. I just stopped losing for 2. People ask if I'm bitter. I'm not. Bitterness would mean I still carry him with me, and I spent too many years carrying things that were never mine. It's Sunday morning now, almost a year later. Same house, but it breathes differently. Nobody's mood decides the weather in these rooms anymore. My daughter is at the table with a book she actually likes. My son is burning toast and pretending he meant to. And that crooked step by the back door, the one Mark promised to fix for 11 years, I fixed it myself. One afternoon, a borrowed drill, a video on my phone. It doesn't creak anymore. The business is still mine. It runs the way it always quietly did, on me, except now my name is on the door, in the daylight, not buried in paperwork. Mark calls sometimes. He's polite now, smaller somehow. We talk about the kids and nothing else. Some nights, I still think about the woman on that bathroom floor, with her hand pressed over her mouth so no one would hear. I don't pity her. I understand her. And if I could sit beside her for just 1 minute, I'd tell her the truth she wasn't ready to believe yet. Get up. You are not losing him. You are getting yourself back. I didn't get my marriage back. I got me back. And that was the part worth saving. I'm not standing in the wreckage of my old life anymore. I'm standing in the doorway of the life I built with my own hands. And this time, when I walk forward, my head is up, my children are beside me, and nobody else gets to call that strength boring. He told a whole table he had outgrown me. He just never noticed that the ground he stood on was mine. I didn't destroy him. I just stopped saving him from the truth. So tell me, was I cruel for letting him find out the hard way? Or was that the first honest thing he ever earned?